Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
When I drove up the winding dirt road toward my parents' ranch, the wind carried the same scent it always had: sagebrush, dust, and faint regret. The old mailbox still leaned sideways, rusted at the hinge, stubbornly hanging on like the people who lived there. I hadn't been home in 8 months, and already my stomach tightened as the silhouette of the ranch came into view. Peeling paint, sagging porch, and my mother's curtains still fluttering like ghosts of what used to be warmth. Mom burst out of the front door before I even parked. "Daisy," she cried, wrapping me in a hug that smelled like lavender and dish soap. For a moment, I almost let myself believe things could be simple again. "Still working for that boring government office?" my father asked when I stepped inside, his tone laced with that familiar hint of dismissal. "Same as before," I said, forcing a smile. "Just paperwork." They never knew what I really did at the Department of Homeland Security. They thought I filed forms and processed data, when in truth, I handled classified counterterrorism intelligence, reports that could shape the nation's safety. I'd spent years protecting them from the truth, believing ignorance was safer than curiosity. Uncle Caden arrived just before sunset, all loud laughter and beer breath. "The government girl returns," he teased, setting down a 6-pack. "So, Daisy, what top-secret pencil pushing are you up to now?" I laughed it off, but something about his eyes lingered on the work laptop I kept in my satchel. That night, after dinner, I spread my files on the small desk in my childhood room. Redacted reports, encrypted drives, evidence of chatter that could lead to an imminent attack. The urgency of my assignment pressed against my chest like a heartbeat. When I got the call from my superior, "We've located the witness. You'll need to meet him first thing in the morning," I didn't hesitate. I locked my briefcase, double-checked the encryption key, and left the house quietly. As I backed out of the driveway, headlights sliced through the mist, and for one brief, uneasy moment, I glanced at the porch. My family stood in the doorway, watching. Their faces were soft with curiosity, too soft. I told myself it was nothing. I didn't yet know that curiosity would cost them everything. By morning, the ranch was quiet, too quiet. The air carried a strange stillness, as though the house itself was holding its breath. I returned just after noon from the witness meeting, still replaying his trembling voice in my mind. "They're closer than you think." When I opened the door, the first thing I noticed was the smell: coffee, dust, and something metallic. The second thing was the briefcase. It wasn't where I'd left it. "Mom?" my voice echoed through the living room. She appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel, her smile too quick, too nervous. "You're home early, sweetheart." "Where's my briefcase?" "Oh, that old thing?" Caden was just curious. He thought maybe you left your laptop open. The blood drained from my face. I ran to my room. The lock was broken. Papers scattered like fallen leaves across the desk. My desk. Uncle Caden stood there, phone in hand, the camera app still open. "Caden, what did you do?" I whispered, trembling. He shrugged. "Relax, Daisy. These are just some business documents. I was curious about what you do, but I didn't understand anything. Looked like gibberish." "You photographed it?" My voice cracked, horror clawing at my throat. "Those were classified counterterrorism documents. You just committed a federal crime." Dad stepped in, frowning. "Now, Daisy, don't exaggerate. He was just curious." I looked at the three of them, the people I loved most, and felt something inside me break. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Mom's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't mean harm, honey." I reached for my phone, my fingers shaking. "It doesn't matter what you meant." As I entered the DHS emergency code, my reflection in the dark window caught my eye. Cold, tear-streaked, unrecognizable. Outside, the wind howled through the fields, carrying the sound of sirens that would change everything. The first siren wailed just when the sun was at its zenith. My mother froze by the window. My father's face went pale. I stood by the door, phone still in hand, heart hammering like gunfire in my chest. "Daisy, what did you do?" My mother whispered, voice trembling. "What I had to," I said quietly. "They're coming to secure the documents." Uncle Caden's face hardened. "You called the feds on your own family?" I didn't answer. The low rumble of approaching vehicles filled the silence. black SUVs kicking up dust as they turned into the drive. Agents in tactical gear poured out, shouting orders. Department of Homeland Security, step away from the house. My father stepped forward, angry and disbelieving. This is madness, she's our daughter, sir. One of the agents said sharply, you are under investigation for unauthorized access to classified federal materials. Everyone, hands visible. Mom sobbed, clutching my arm. Daisy, please, tell them it was a mistake. Tears blurred my vision, but my training held me steady. Mom, I can't. I'm still an officer of the law. I'm bound by oath. Caden's voice cracked. I was curious, that's all. You're ruining us simply because of our curiosity. I turned to him, shaking. You didn't just open files, you photographed them. That's espionage, Caden, whether you meant to or not. Agents moved in, handcuffs glinting. My parents shouted my name, desperate, betrayed. I wanted to run, to undo everything, but I stood still, forcing myself to breathe. And as the sound faded into night, I realized she was right. I had destroyed something, but to save something greater. 3 weeks passed before I saw them again. The hearings were held in a cold, windowless room in Washington, where the air smelled of paper and quiet judgment. My mother sat beside my father, both pale and trembling, while Uncle Caden avoided my gaze entirely. The prosecutor's voice was steady, almost detached. Unauthorized access to classified material, violation of federal security protocols, and dissemination of restricted imagery. Each word fell like a stone. Mom turned to me, eyes swollen from crying. Daisy, tell them we didn't know. Tell them you forgive us. I swallowed hard. I already told the truth, Mom. I can't change it. Dad's jaw tightened. You always thought you were better than us. All that education, that secret job, you'd sell out your own blood to protect strangers. Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. I did it to protect everyone, including you. If those files had leaked, hundreds could have died. Uncle Caden finally spoke, his voice bitter. You talk about saving lives, but you destroyed ours. When the sentences were read, probation and fines for my parents, 1 year in prison for Caden, their silence was louder than any accusation. I wanted to scream, to tell them I was sorry, that I hadn't slept since that night. That I replayed every moment in my head, wondering if I could have stopped it. But when the guards led Caden away, he turned and spat, "You're dead to us." That was the last thing my family ever said to me. Outside the courthouse, the sky was heavy with rain. As it began to fall, I didn't open my umbrella. I just stood there, letting it wash over me, cold, relentless, and deserved. The price of duty had never felt so human. Months later, I stood in my apartment and watched through the window as crowds of people hurried about their business. My parents haven't called me once since then. I heard that they still haven't recovered from what happened at the ranch. My phone buzzed, a message from my supervisor. Your promotion's official. Exceptional protocol adherence. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. A medal for integrity, and a heart that felt hollow. When I returned to DC, the director called me into his office. You saved a counterterrorism operation, Walters, he said quietly. Your actions prevented hundreds of casualties. You did the right thing. I nodded, forcing a faint smile. Doing the right thing doesn't always feel right, sir. That night, I walked home under the city lights, my reflection glimmering in the glass of every passing window, strong, steady, and utterly alone. I paused at the Potomac Bridge, watching the water shimmer beneath. Integrity means doing the right thing, I whispered, even when it destroys you. Somewhere deep inside, I felt peace stir, not loud, not triumphant, just real. I turned away from the river, shoulders squared against the wind, ready to keep walking into a future I'd earned but would forever pay for.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.